Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are excited to have Ms. Lisa Ware, Assistant Director of Financial Aid at Arcadia University with us. Lisa will be presenting on various important aspects of the financial aid process, offering valuable insights and guidance. As she presents, feel free to enter your questions into the chat, and I'll do my best to address them promptly. And thank you for joining us. So let's dive into this crucial topic. We are ready.
Hi, Ann. Good evening, and thank you again for having me here to do your financial aid presentation, and we'll get started. I like to have a little icebreaker screen for all those parents who may have first-time students going off to college that may seem very overwhelmed, and they may feel like these parents do in this little cartoon. I seem to most people that I show this to seems to like it very much, that they feel that all they're left with is the tuition bill and their kid just hops in a car and just takes everything, leaves them with absolutely nothing. But we're going to try to make you feel a little bit better, and hopefully this gave you a little chuckle as we start our presentation. So things that we're going to go over today is exactly what is financial aid. We're going to talk about some sources of financial aid. We're going to give you some term updates, meaning with the FAFSA simplification, we're going to give you some new terms that they're using. We're going to go over the application process. We're also going to give you some alternative financing options. We're going to give you some websites, so some compare some offers, helpful websites, and then we'll just do a Q&A. So let's get started. What exactly is financial aid? So financial aid is designed to have funds to assist students and their families to help pay for post-secondary education. And it comes in forms of grants. And these grants can be federal and state. They are based on the U.S. poverty guidelines, and they are household income need-based. We have scholarships. Your scholarships can be given to you by your college or university. It can also be outside scholarships that are given through various organizations, your church, your employer. Some high schools give out scholarships, and every bank probably has a scholarship web link on their website. When I talk about organizations, we can talk about your supermarket, your TJ Maxx, your McDonald's, your Kohl's. So all those various organizations, your Google, your Duct Tape, they all have scholarships. You just have to do the searching. Then we're going to go over, give you some more detail about federal direct loans and private loans. So most people are confused between what's a need-based aid versus a merit-based aid. Your merit-based aid is the aid that is given to the student from their application submitted to the university. So that's based on their academic record, their skills, their talents, all the information that they provide in that packet and the essay that they provide. They do community service, any special characteristics, any involvement. All those things are put on their application. When the counselors, the admissions counselors review that, they will award a merit-based aid. That merit-based aid is typically for the entire 4 years that the student is there, unless for some reason the student does not make the school's satisfactory academic progress, and each school's satisfactory academic progress is different. I recommend that you check the website about those rules. Your need-based grants, that's where your FAFSA comes in, and that is based on your financial need. And even though you may not receive something from your FAFSA, the state of from the government, sometimes you will receive information funds from the state of Pennsylvania. If you're or if you're staying in state, if you're going out of state, those funds typically do not transfer out. But just because you may not receive federal grants, you may receive state grant. And also you can receive institutional grants because they do look at what's coming off of the FAFSA, and they try to give you some institutional funds as well. All need-based grants are subject to change year to year because you have to complete your FAFSA each year. And the FAFSA is used prior year income. So that means you're going to be using the income from your taxes 2 years back. Employment. So students have an opportunity to have either federal work study awarded to them, and if they do not qualify for federal work study, most institutions have some type of budget-based jobs throughout their university. And basically what that means is the student can obtain a job to work on campus during their off hours, and they will receive a paycheck. It can be direct deposited. Most of them do not do paper checks anymore. They do direct deposit. It's entirely up to the student to apply that to their tuition because it's not directed to their tuition. It's directed to the student. I like to inform parents that this is the money that the students can use to pay for their incidentals. If they want to go to Target, if they want to order that late night pizza, Chinese food, Chipotle, whatever. That's where this money comes in, and that's less money out of your pocket. We're also going to go over some loans. The loans are in the student's name. All of them are not need-based. It has a variable fixed interest rate, which changes every July. And the student loans go into repayment 6 months after graduation. So the difference in your loans, you have a subsidized direct student loan, and you have an unsubsidized. The subsidized is your federal need-based loan, and the government pays your interest while you're in school. The unsubsidized is not a need-based loan and is available to every student. However, the interest is billed quarterly, and if you're unable to pay that quarterly payment, the interest will be capitalized upon repayment. So basically what that means is if you're able to pay the quarterly interest rate, which typically is not, say, hundreds of dollars, typically a lot lower than that. If you can pay that while you're in school, while the student is in school, it's best to do that. If not, then that loan becomes like a credit card, becomes compounding, and it continues to grow. Your payment options on your loans, the principal goes into, you start paying on your principal 6 months after graduation, or unless the student drops at least half time, which is typically 6 credits at every institution. Then they send into repayment quicker, or if they stop out and then go back. But if they go into repayment before graduation, that means once they have already used their grace period, and once graduation is over, they'll immediately go into repayment, and then they need to work with their servicer to try to work out some type of arrangements, which can be done. Again, it's a variable fixed rate. It changes every July. So you want to keep an eye out at. Oh, and we also have the PLUS loan. So the PLUS loan is in the parent's name of the dependent student. There will be a credit check. However, the parents need to have an endorser. That is an option. Repayment typically goes into effect after the second disbursement, which is 60 days after the second disbursement, which is typically 60 days after the January disbursement. You do have an option to have a deferment when you're filling out the application. You can request to have it deferred, and it's deferred up to 4 years while the student is enrolled, and then you will go into repayment on that. So I wanted to give you some loan limits and guidelines. So when the student first starts as a freshman, so up to 26 credits, they're eligible for $3,500 in a subsidized loan, and to additional $2,000 in unsubsidized for a max at $5,500. Most institutions automatically puts this on their award letters to give you your options of what you're eligible for. This is up to the student and the parent to discuss if they want to accept the loans. It's not required. Once you reach your sophomore year, your subsidized goes up $1,000. Your unsubsidized stays the same. Your max is $6,500. And then once you're in your junior and senior year, it goes up another $1,000 in your subsidized, and making your total eligibility at $7,500. Now, if it's an independent student for various reasons, or if the student's parents was unable to obtain a PLUS loan, The subsidized max stays the same. However, the unsubsidized, you are eligible for an additional 4,000. And then you can see that those total max goes up. So your freshman year, it's 9,500. Your sophomore, it's 10,500. And junior and senior year, it's 12,500. This is the max aggregate that you are able to borrow. So as a dependent undergraduate student, we know sometimes students, something happens in life, they may transfer, the first school didn't work out, or they changed their majors. There's just know that the maximum subsidized they can borrow is $23,000. If it's an undergraduate, if it's a dependent student with parent denials, still the subsidized is maxed at 23,000, but the combination is 57,500. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't mention on a dependent side, that would be 35. Once they are in grad school, the student loans are all unsubsidized, and that you can see that their max that they can borrow is 38,500 with no sub eligibility. That should be unsub. That's my typo. I apologize, but it's 65,500. And now there is a Grad Plus loan, which again, it's a student's loan. And it's the parent takes it out on the credit, but it goes against the student, not the parent. So we want to talk, this is what you really want to see, your cost of attendance, these factors. It's your actual tuition and fees, your actual room and board. However, each school estimates books and supplies. They don't use actual figures. They estimate personal expenses and they estimate transportation. The reason why we do all this is to inflate the cost of attendance so we can maximize the amount of aid that you can go against your complete tuition and make it a little bit more affordable to you. So those are the things that go into the components of coming up with the cost of attendance. And each school, of course, will be different because each school initial tuition is different. So now that we have the basics, let's get ready and start getting to the application process. I know that everyone has heard of the horror stories of the FAFSA simplification of this year, and therefore they're hoping not to repeat itself. So right now, the FAFSA did not open in October 1 as it normally does. Their Department of Education is putting out testing to a select number of schools and students to do some beta testing. So we have been told that we're looking for the opening of the 25-26 FAFSA to open in December. We do not have a specific date as of yet, but the FAFSA will be available sometime in December. Unless they tell us otherwise, you would apply at studentaid.gov is applying to FAFSA. Please keep in mind, because your income changes, that you will complete your FAFSA every year. Again, your income changes, so you never know what you, just because you may not be eligible for federal funds one year, does not mean that you are not eligible for another year. If something has happened from 2 years ago to now, something drastic in your income's cut in half, change your jobs, lower income, any of those things, you will fill out your FAFSA as is, and then contact the school and they will make the necessary changes. What they would ask you to do is provide an income reduction form or whatever the circumstances, put your appeal in, and then they can go in and make the changes. Do not try to make the changes on your FAFSA yourself. It will probably create more problems than allow the school to make the corrections. As of right now, the state grants deadline is May 1, but it's subject to change, and that probably depends on how the FAFSA rolls out after December. So here are some changes that have been made. I'm sure people may know some of the technology names. So this is FAFSA simplification. That basically means that they have fewer questions than the previous FAFSA from 2 years ago. What is different is that the student has its own section they must complete and sign, And then they are to invite their parent to complete their section, and they are to complete and sign. A lot of the problems from this year was that either the student didn't invite the parent or someone forgot to sign. Some terminology changes. There is no more consideration for expected family contribution. That has been replaced by SAI, which is the Student Aid Index, and still the overall FAFSA is calculated by the Department of Education. The word contributors now. So your parent, your student, your spouse, they are considered contributors. And what it is that you both must sign the FAFSA to make sure that it's completed and submitted. The other change is there's no longer the IRS data retrieval tool. It is now called the FADDX, which is a direct data exchange. And what that means is that you are now giving permission to the Department of Education to go and repull your income taxes from 2 years ago from the IRS into your FAFSA. There has been complications with this piece. If you do not give permission, they pretty much put your FAFSA on hold and makes you ineligible unless you go in and manually enter all your tax information. The simple way is to go ahead and just give them permission to go and pull your IRS tax information. So this is another hot topic. So the philosophy on who's a parent is shifted on the FAFSA. So basically, it is saying that the parent that that provides a greater portion of the student's financial support during the 12 months prior to filling out the FAFSA is the parent that you use. There are circumstances where some parents say that there's not one parent more than the other that has contributed more than 12 months or higher. So then at that point, it's the greater portion that's been divided. To have more clarification on these questions as should be the contributor or the primary parent, FAFSA has provided before completing the FAFSA simplification. They have some onboarding pages and it answers these questions. It also gives you more idea of what type of questions to expect from the parent and the student. So it's like a little tutorial, and my recommendation is don't skip this part. Some students felt that they just knew what they were doing. They skipped this part and they answered a lot of the questions wrong. So you can either sit down with your student and fill it out together or remind them, don't skip the tutorial. I'm going to let you guys take a sip of water. I'm going to let you guys read over. This is basically their definition of who the contributor are as far as the custodial parent. So I'll just let you guys look at that for a quick minute. It's going to take some. Hopefully this page gave you some good information on who's the parent. So both the parent and the student has to have an FSA ID, and that is basically your electronic signature for your FAFSA. You're just going to have a username and a password to complete your FSA ID. That does take a few days, so do not think that you can create your FSA ID and then roll right into completing your FAFSA. So since the FAFSA is not opening until December, I would say you can either create your FSA ID now and put it in a safe place, your information. You can wait till November, but do not wait till December 1. I would do it prior to, so you will be ready and set to go. One key tip is that whatever name is on your Social Security card, that is the name you have to use to create your FSA ID. That is your legal name. That is also your name that you have to put on the FAFSA. So it can't be anything shortened. If your name is hyphenated, currently, but it's not hyphenated on your SSN card, then you may want to contact the Social Security Administration and have your Social Security card corrected, because that will create a lot of problems. So you're going to want to compare your offers. You're going to be able to apply for up to 20 schools on that FAFSA, and you're going to have 20 different types of award letters coming in. So some of the things that you want to look at is the direct cost, which is with the actual tuition and fees and so forth by the school, what that is going to be. You also want to take in consideration some of the indirect costs. You know, if the student's going to be living on if off campus in an apartment, that's off campus housing, that's not going to show up on be included in the bill. Also, even though you may have a payment plan or meal plan for the student that's going to live on campus, best believe they're still going to want to have that outside meal from Wawa, Chick-fil-A, Panera, whatever. Again, that's indirect costs. That's where that work study funds come in, can help with some of that indirect costs. So what you're going to do is your scholarships and your grants is referred as gift aid. You want to check with your school. When you have gift aid for outside scholarships, that means some schools will let it stack, which means you can just keep getting them, as many as possible. And as long as it doesn't go over the cost of attendance, you're great. Some schools, you get a $3,000 outside scholarship. They may reduce their institutional grant that they have been given, that's been offered to the student. They may reduce it by the amount of the outside scholarship. They may reduce it by a portion of the outside scholarship. That's a key thing that you want to check into from whatever institutions that your student is interested in attending. Loans and work study is considered self-help aid. Loans, it's optional, and work study, again, is optional, but that work study helps with the indirect costs. And then your final out-of-pocket costs, that's all your remainder. So that's basically your tuition, and you subtracted all your grants and scholarships and your loans that you may want to take. That is going to be your out-of-pocket costs. So you also, some institutions charge a difference in tuition where there is an in-state fee and an out-of-state fee. And so you want to look at that. There's an in-state tuition and an out-of-state tuition. So those are little tidbits that you may want to look at. I would go to the website and check those things out. Please be mindful that each year, everything will change. So each year you have to complete your FAFSA. Tuition will change each year. Calculate somewhere between a 3 to 4% tuition increase each year as you're budgeting for school. Check the school's website, see what the tuition was this year, what is scheduled to be next year. And if they have it 2 years back, see the difference, see the percentage of increase. That helps you to do a calculation and see what you may need and what will be at your out-of-pocket costs. So here are some helpful websites. This is studentaid.gov, which is where you will fill out your FAFSA, also where you will complete your FSA ID. Student aid, there's an aid calculator, estimator, will kind of estimate what you may need. There's Grant Us. Grant Us is formerly FIA. So they changed their website this year as well, which also created some problems. Arcadia has a calculator on our website as well. And then we also have some scholarship search engines. Like I said, there's one for Sallie Mae, there's one for Citizen. All of them have their own search engine. There's, College Board, College Express, FastWeb, I'm sure you've heard of. And for that student that says college is not for me, that Mike Jobs, if you're familiar with the TV show Dirty Jobs, Mike Rowe actually has a scholarship. So that is also there listed for you. Some alternative financing. So If you decide that just out-of-pocket costs is still out of your reach, you can do, most institutions have a payment plan. And what they can do is either take the one semester and break it down for a certain amount of months, or they can take the yearly tuition, the both semesters, and divide that by a certain amount of months, and you will pay them quarterly. There's typically an application fee. My recommendation, if you do this payment plan with your institution that does not charge interest, but I would do it for the full year and not each independent year, because then you will be paying two fees. So if the application fee is $50, let the payments be broken down for the entire year and pay the $50 fee versus paying $100 because you're going to pay $50 for the fall and $50 for the spring. So that's an option. Also, there's alternative loan options. And your alternative loans, you will compare that to your plus loan and see what's the best option for you. The alternative loan is in the student's name. It does involve a credit-worthy cosigner. All the other information is the same, is similar to the direct loans. The payment goes into effect 6 months after graduation. The variable interest rate is variable, so that will change. The one thing, there's always some type of incentives based on what lender do you use, so you need to do your homework. Some lenders have, if you pay interest while you're in school, they take off a percentage point. Do 6 months direct deposit payments, they will let the cosigner, they have a cosigner release plan. There's some of them, if you do interest while you're in school, pay your interest while you're in school, they take off a percentage up to 1/4%, they take off a point. So you want to do your homework on those alternative loans and find out which one is best for you, or the payment plan or the Parent Plus loan. So this is my final screen, and it's just a quick reminder that the financial aid office is here to give you money, and the bursar's office takes the money from you. We do not take the money. We try to help you find as much funding as possible. So, and that's the end of my presentation. And if anyone has any questions, I'm open.
So Lisa, there were a few questions here that I wanted to defer to you to answer.
Okay.
So one is that 35,000 for dependent undergrads, the Parent Plus loan max amount?
No. That 35 is the max that student, let's see it. Sorry. Is this the screen that they were referring to?
I believe so.
Or here? So if you're referring here, this is what the student actually borrows. For the freshman, the subsidized eligibility is a 3,500 max. They're eligible for additional 2,000 for a max of 5,500. This is based on the number of credits that the student is completing each year. Hopefully that answered the question.
I think the person was referring to for dependent undergrads, the Parent Plus loan. They wanted to know about the max Parent Plus loan.
So the max Parent Plus loan will be based on their credit approval, and each lender will be different. Sometimes you can do an overall max. Some parents will say take out the max of 80,000 and they break it over the 4-year period. They do have an option, depending on the lender, where you only do one credit check and do a few each year. You use a portion of that. So the max will be based on your credit.
Okay. Here's another question. Thank you. Here's another question. Who do you contact if you fill out the info for the FAFSA ID but haven't received it? It's been about 4 weeks.
I would go on studentaid.gov and either try to do a Q&A with them from the website, a chat, or call them directly.
Okay. And then,
Also, is it something with the SSN, or is it something with the email check your spam as well?
and then there was a question about completing FAFSA for twins.
You do each one separate. You have one FSA ID. Each twin has their own FSA ID, and they are done. Each one does a FAFSA separately, but they have to invite the parent in.
Okay, and referring back to the question about the Parent Plus loan, the person with the question says that they were referring to the slide number 8.
Okay, so here, if they're referring to this section here, this is if it's a dependent student and the parent is denied the plus loan, the student is able to take out additional unsubsidized for a combination of 57.5 would be their max of subsidized and subsidized while they're in school for 4 years. If that's the portion that they were referring to.
Yeah, I don't have any open questions right now. I guess we'll give people a few minutes.
Sure.
Okay, here's the question. Is there a repository for potential merit scholarships somewhere?
A depository can you give me a little bit more clarification on the question?
And there's another, okay, so here's the question here. That 23,000 is that the max for 4 years?
Yes, the 23,000 is the maximum for dependent student in the subsidized, not including the unsubsidized. That's a maximum of a subsidized. So if they're looking at this here, that's a combination. But that's subject to change.
Just right here, can you? I'm responding to the person with the repository for potential merit scholarship.
So
So
if they're referring to this institution giving out merit scholarship, each institution has a different allocation as to how much they give you. So I can't quote a figure. Some larger institutions may have a larger endowment and were able to give out a lot more funding than smaller institutions. And considering I don't work in the admissions office, I don't quote merit scholarship funding. If you're searching for outside scholarships, there's billions of dollars of untapped scholarship funding. So you should do your homework. You should start now on searching.
yeah, so this person says that they are referring to a website that lists all potential merit scholarship. Do you have, I know that you had a list in one of your slides here, you had a
This
list.
is just, yeah, this is just a few examples of different search engines that you can go to use to search for scholarships. I was unable to list every one of them, but I wanted to give some examples.
Okay. I
And
know
that's,
that
go ahead.
I know that we use, we refer students to FastWeb, scholarship searches,
College Board has one.
scholarships.com, College Board. Those are the three biggies that we, refer our students to, but those are just a few of, there's so many.
There are so many. Sally Mae has just purchased one that's called Scully, which is also a search engine. And I know there's a presentation out there on FAFSA's website about searching for scholarships, and they give you a whole lot more search engine. They have out there about Dr. Pepper. They have something out there about Taco Bell, duct tape, Google. There was a whole list, Target, searching. So that's why I said you can search various stores, organizations, your own employer.
So, just based on my own, experience with working with my kids, one is a senior and one is a sophomore in college. We've used fastweb.com, when they were in high school for just scholarships, like basically it's a scholarship clearinghouse. So I had, my kids complete, like there was a whole profile that they needed to complete, and then anything that they qualify for, they get emailed the information or the link to the applications.
Correct.
That's also a good resource.
Yes, and there's, again, some of the banks have sweepstakes scholarships listed on their websites. I know PNC has one, I know Citizen has one. Again, Sally Mae has one. So it's, again, it's a search.
Okay. So I have a couple questions here. This person says, we don't want our daughter to come out of school having all these loans to pay back. Are there any other financial options for her?
Outside of doing the scholarship search, merit-based scholarships from the institution. Some institution gives full rides, some institutions do not. That's something you want to look at to see what their merit-based, what their max merit-based is based to their tuition. Mainly, Scott, you can do the payment plan if you're able to do the payment plan. That's other options. The biggest one is to do a scholarship search, and again, start now.
Thank you. So here's another question. When having twins, are the financial aid decisions based on having both attending the same school?
Not necessarily. So it depends. So Arcadia actually has a sibling scholarship that one will receive. You would check the school's website to see what scholarships they offer. Some schools offer siblings. Some schools actually have scholarships if their grandparent attended, if their parent attended. So those are things that you need to check the individual institution. And if you do the scholarship search, like the profile, you can put in that you're twins. You never know. There's scholarships out there for that you have red hair. So I'm sure it's scholarships out there that you're twins.
So another question we have is, are the alternative loans the same as private loans?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any open questions right now, but we'll give, people a few more minutes.
Just to say that when I did the FIA webinar, again, they mentioned the billions of dollar untapped scholarship money just because students won't take the time to either do the profile or do the essays. And there are several scholarships that are out there. There's sorority scholarships, there are fraternity scholarships. Again, I'm pretty sure just about every store that you shop at, if you go on their website, they dig deep enough, there is something about a scholarship. Fast food chains. You really just have to do the search engines and complete the essays. And you can recycle essays. You don't have to write a new essay each time that you apply. You just can tweak it based on the criteria that you're looking for. Some of the banks are doing sweepstakes, meaning it's not just one scholarship overall. They may do one or two. They may do one every month. They may do a couple scholarships a year, a couple scholarships a semester. Again, PNC, Citizens, SoFi. Those are just the few that I know off the top of my head. And I know those because those representatives have reached out to me to say that they have scholarship, not just at the undergraduate level, but at the graduate level.
Yeah, so here's a question here. How will we know when FAFSA opens for us?
Well, hopefully your guidance counselor will know. At this point, none of the institutions know, so we're waiting to hear from the Department of Ed as well.
So as soon as we get the official word, it will be included, the message will be included in the principal's Sunday message. So we'll send that out, to everyone. And I just wanted to add a few words about the scholarships and applications for scholarships. So when my own kids were going through this, I had them, fill out the FAFSA profile, the FAFSA web profile, and then, as scholarships comes through, and you'll get a lot of them. You just kind of have to go through the information and see if it's something that you are interested in applying, to. Some can be as high as 5,000 or as low as, $250, or book money. So, but so they vary in the amount that is given. But also, just because of we fill out the FastWeb, we also had access to a lot of different other scholarship resources, and a lot of them are based also on the parents' occupation. I know that there were some for electricians that I saw, policemen, firemen. So some of them are career specific or just at your own place of employment. They also give out scholarships.
That's correct. And I actually would recommend that FAIR has a webinar on scholarship searching that they have been offering. And you can, if you missed the registration, you can always go back and see the pre-recording. So I do recommend going out to the FAIR's website. And right now, FAIR.org is still up. So you may want to check that and check their webinar section and go through the presentation. It's a lengthy presentation, but it's a very good presentation. It gives a lot of scholarship information. Some of what I shared, and they do give you some more options on different scholarship websites.
Yes, did you have a question about the Common App?
And Anna, just want to give a clarification. This slide right here, the combination of the dependent student, the max they will be able to borrow is the 31,000. If a plus is included in that, then the plus is overlooked and the student is able to borrow more. And what that may basically mean is that it may show up that on their FAFSA, the student has reached their aggregate of 31,000. But if somewhere within that 31,000, there's a plus loan, say of $5,000 or $10,000, that still gives the student some eligibility. So hopefully that is some clarification for the parent that asked that. It's not the plus maximum. So that's just a typo in there. We'll clear that up.
I don't have any outstanding questions in the chat at the moment. Is there any other questions that you guys might have? We'll try to answer them as best we can. Great, where would you get that? We found the survey. Okay, so if there are not any other questions, we will end our presentation. As I stated earlier, the presentation will be available on the website. And so, because it is recorded, so you can certainly refer back to it. And once we get the information about the opening of the FAFSA, we will make that information available through the Principal's Weekly newsletter. Thank you, everyone.